Well, good morning to all of you. As has already been mentioned, but we just want to recognize and to continue to pray for those. Thank you very much, Fred, for lifting them up. Robert, he had suffered a heart attack. Was it 3 weeks ago? Is that about right? And they sent him up to Walla Walla, and he had 3 stents put in, and he was feeling pretty good, but it seems like maybe one of those stents isn't functioning quite right, or they're not quite sure, but he has not been feeling well. And they're going to send him up to Spokane this week at some point, and he's going to have another angioplasty done. And so we'd ask that you be remembering Robert this week. As we know, the whole Stone clan went down to Portland. For Haley's surgery. The surgery went well, and they were able actually to get back home, but I think they're all just kind of laying low this weekend, so we'll be remembering them. So actually, there's a lot on people's plates, so we'd remember them, family. And Larry should be coming back tomorrow, so we pray that he'd have a safe travel. I'm just going to say a quick prayer before I get started. I like to center myself before I get blasting off. Father God, thank you for this time that we have. Thank you for this freedom to worship and this privilege to worship. Thank you for music. It moves our soul. It touches our emotions. And it helps us to see you in ways that we don't ordinarily do so. And we're thankful for the group that leads us in worship. We're thankful, Lord, for what you do in our hearts. I pray this morning, Lord, as we break the word together, that you would meet us here and that you would open our hearts and our minds to your word, that we would hear, each one of us, what we need to this morning from you in order to grow, in order to become more mature and complete. In the name of your Son, Jesus, we pray. Amen. I have had pretty much a habit most of my adult life of having a PB&J as a mid-morning snack. Now, part of that is because I've got a little bit of hypoglycemia. And so I begin to lose a little blood sugar, and I get a little weak. And so the protein of the peanut butter helps a lot. And of course, I like jelly. I don't know if you like jelly, but I love jelly. In fact, I can be kind of picky about the jelly that I enjoy. When I was a kid, grape jelly was what I would have. That's what seemed like Grandma had. And every once in a while, she'd try to sneak some of that orange marmalade on me, and no, thank you. Didn't care for the orange marmalade. But I liked the grape jelly. And as I got a little bit older and my taste buds got a little more refined, I began to taste different types of jam, strawberry jam. And then I decided, really, I prefer jam, just a little bit of pulp in there. The type of jelly that I most enjoy now is a jelly that Deb had actually created, put it together, is plum raspberry. Plum raspberry. She gets Italian prune plums. Had to be a specific type. She gets Italian prune plums, and she cans them along with raspberries, and she makes a plum raspberry jelly. And I really like it. Jelly is sweet. Jelly tastes good on the tongue. But there's a kind of jelly that leaves a bad taste in my mouth. You might have heard about it. I remember the first time I tasted this jelly. I was in 5th or 6th grade. I don't remember exactly. I think 5th grade. And my friend Wade and I had gone over to a girl's house after school. We knew this girl, and to be honest, she was kind of cute, and I was a little sweet on her, and Wade suggested we go to her house after school. So I said, that sounded like a good idea. And we got there, and although I was sweet on the girl, she was sweet on Wade. And so she tended to spend all her time talking to Wade, and they would drift away from me for a little bit for some time alone, and that's the first time I remember tasting that jelly. You know what I'm talking about? It's a little on the bitter side. It's not sweet. It's sour. It leaves a bad taste in your mouth when you have a little, and you consume a little bit of that jelly. Not only is the jelly bitter on the tongue, but it tends to linger. It lingers and it marinates, and sometimes it builds in intensity. It can ruin relationships, that kind of jelly. It can ruin relationships. It can turn us into suspicious, green-eyed monsters. We don't want to be that way, but it can grab a hold of us and can rob us of what were meant to be some of the best moments in our life if we're not careful. Times that we're with family, we're with friends, and we should be enjoying the moment and enjoying what's happening in their life and celebrating with them. But if we got a little bit of that jelly in our lives, it can ruin it and can leave us sitting there hollow. Maybe you've tasted it. As I said, it is said that revenge is sweet, but jealousy certainly is not. So what are some of the things that people are jealous of? Throw some things out. What are some things that people are jealous of? I'm just going to let you go ahead because you know my hearing isn't the greatest, but you just go ahead and throw them out. Okay. Other people's talents, other people's things. Yeah, characteristics, you name it. It's really wide open, isn't it? We've been talking as we've been going through this study in James, and he writes, "Consider it joy, my brothers." Would you repeat that with me? We've been going through this and want to just keep that as our base. Consider it joy, my brothers, when you face trials of many kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. And perseverance must complete its work so that we might be mature and complete. And I missed a little bit. Not lacking anything. Not lacking anything. And it seems that that's pretty much James's thesis for this letter that he writes to these believers. That we will face trials. And then he goes on through the letter to begin to expose what some of those trials are. And now as we get to the middle of the letter, he turns the spotlight on jealousy and he says, jealousy is a trial. Jealousy is one of those things that's universal, it's common. It's something that we all face. It's something we all experience, being jealous. And it leaves a bitter taste on our mouth. It's not something that we're fond of. It's not something we like to experience. And it's not something that, that speaks well of us. Read with me, if you would, in James 3, beginning in verse 13. We're going to read 13 through 16 at this point. James writes, "Who is wise and understanding among you? By his good life, let him show his works in the meekness of wisdom. But if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast and be false to the truth. This wisdom is not such as comes down from above, but is earthly, unspiritual, and devilish. For where jealousy and selfish ambition exists, there will be disorder and every vile practice." James opens this section by saying, who is wise and who is understanding? You might underline or highlight, if you have a highlighter, the words wise or wisdom throughout this passage. You see the words wise or wisdom. He uses it several times in this short passage. And it's because James uses wisdom as the measuring rod, or the foundation, if you will, in order to rid ourselves of jealousy. You want to know how to get rid of jealousy in your life? By using the standard that God uses of wisdom and understanding. And so he begins by saying, Let him who is wise by his good life, let the person who is wise by his good life show his works in the meekness of wisdom. His good life being that of a life that is attractive, a life that is appealing, a life that is inspirational, that builds people up. And he says this shows in his works in the meekness of wisdom. Meekness, the word means gentle strength. A horse is meek. If you've ever done any riding of horses, a horse that is broken, a horse is trained to be ridden, has strength, it has power, but it's under control by the turning of the bridle. Meekness is something that's supposed to characterize us as believers. That we have this strength, but it's a strength that is held in check, that is gentle. Let him who is wise by his good life show his works in the meekness of wisdom. Tell me, does this sound like the characteristic of someone who is jealous? Is this the way that you would describe someone when you see them in a fit of jealousy, that they show through their good life works done in the meekness of wisdom? When you have tasted a bit of that jealousy, is this how you saw yourself? Is this how you would feel about yourself when you're experiencing jealousy, that you would see yourself as one who shows their works in gentleness and strength of wisdom? See, living an attractive life in the gentle, confident strength of wisdom is really something that we want. It's how we want to live our life, is it not? In fact, isn't that the way we were designed to live our life? Weren't we designed to live in a way that brought honor to God, that brings honor to ourselves? James draws a contrast when he continues, but if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast to be false to the truth. Remember that in the passage before this, we talked about sweet water and bitter water from the tongue. And now he talks about this bitter jealousy. Bitter is something that is malignant. The word from the Greek means that it's a malignancy. A few years ago, Deb had a tumor in her thyroid. We were living up in Colville at the time, and we traveled down to Spokane to the hospital there. And they removed the thyroid, and they did a biopsy on it, and the doctor said that it was malignant. You can imagine, that scared me. He calls me from the operating room. He says, we did a biopsy. It was malignant, but we're pretty sure we got all of it. That left me feeling a little bit unsettled. What do you mean you're pretty sure you got all of it, and it was malignant? Yeah, it's all right. It'll be okay. And I was as I say, I feel a little unsettled. Why? Because something that's malignant is something that attacks and destroys and brings death. And James writes that this jealousy is something that's bitter, that is malignant. Think about that when you're feeling a little green around the gills. And notice that jealousy and selfish ambition are paired, and they're done so twice. I'll get back to that in a minute, but James goes on to speak, with jealousy, it would be wise of us not to speak. That when we're feeling jealous, when we're experiencing jealousy, it would be better for us to keep our mouth closed. Because when we speak, what happens? We talked about that last week. That exposes what's in our heart. And when we're feeling jealousy and we begin to speak, the jealousy is revealed, our heart is revealed, and people know where we're at. I was intelligent enough, wise enough as a 10-year-old not to say anything when I was with Wade and this girl that we both liked. Oh, that wisdom would have stayed with me through the ages, because there have been other times when I've spoken and I was jealous, and I embarrassed myself. He goes on, he says, this wisdom is not as such that comes down from above, but it's earthly, it's unspiritual, and it's devilish. It could be also paraphrased, carnal and demonic. That's jealousy. That's where it comes from. It doesn't come from down from above, but it's earthly. James reveals the source. He says, have you ever wondered where these feelings of envy and jealousy come from? They're not from heaven. We were not created to envy one another. We were created to be able to relate to one another in love and appreciation. We were created to enjoy our friendships with one another, to celebrate the success of a friend or a sibling. We were created in order to encourage and to be proud of others when they do well. We were created to take delight in the attention that someone else receives, knowing that we are deeply loved and valued just as much. To know that your promotion isn't my demotion, and to know that your gain is not my loss, tends to lead us away from jealousy. That I can take joy in what you're experiencing and not feel as though somehow by the fact that you're enjoying life that I'm doing without. I've been jealous. I've been jealous over someone else's hair. Now, you may giggle now because you think I'm talking about they have more. That's not what I mean. When I was young, I had real curly hair. In fact, it was kind of this like kinky wave, you know. It wasn't even like curly. It was just like it just was out of control. And it wouldn't seem to be anything that I could do about it. And my buddy, my good friend Billy had this long, straight, blonde hair. Oh, I wish I had Billy's hair. Oh, if I only just had Billy's hair, how much better off would my life be? Now I just wish I had more hair. I wish that I was taller. When I was playing basketball with friends and they were like 6'4", 6'5". I wish that I was more athletic. I had a good friend Murray. That everything I played with him, he beat me. Ping pong. He beat me in ping pong. I'm a good ping pong player. But Murray beat me. We'd play volleyball. And he was much bigger and stronger. So he'd get up higher, and he'd spike the ball on me and then kind of grin. I hated it. I had a pastor one time, Ray Hauser. I mentioned him last week. And Ray was a softball player. He loved to play softball and baseball. He was a pretty good-sized guy. And one day we had showed up early and there was nobody else there, so we just kind of practicing. I guess like when Allie go play soccer and nobody else shows up, you guys kind of kick the ball back and forth. And we decided we're going to pitch the ball to each other. And I always thought that I was a pretty good pitcher, but I didn't have a lot of velocity. So he was pretty much hitting everything that I was throwing to him. Then he says, Trey Turner, let me throw some balls to you. I said, okay. So I get up there and I start swinging at the ball. And he discovered, didn't take him long, he discovered that if he threw the ball, what I'd call high and tight, like right in front of my face, if they throw the ball right there, it was right in my line of sight. And being right in my line of sight, it seemed like that I could hit it, but I couldn't get the bat around in time to hit it because it was too tall, it was too high and it was too close to me. And I swung and swung and swung and swung. Pretty soon you just stand out there laughing. He says, you can't lay off of this. I can strike you out all day long. Bully. Picking on me. There are things that we wish that we could do, yes? Wish that I could. Well, I don't, but maybe some of you wish that you could bake, or maybe some of you wish you could cook like the Pioneer Woman. I don't know. There are things that we wish that we could do, skills we wish that we had that we don't have. I wish I could play the piano like Doug Bolt. His brain is connected with his fingers through his heart. He doesn't need music at all. At all. I wrote a song, it's been on the top 10, right? No, but I wrote this song, and I began to sing it to him. I didn't know how to, write down music. I couldn't do that, but I just sang it to him. And he listens to the song. He starts tinkling on the piano. And pretty soon he puts orchestration to it. And pretty soon it's this full orchestration of this song that I just kind of sang to him. And then I said, well, that's a little low. Can you? So he transposed it, this song that he just figured out. And so when he'd play, all I'm saying is when he'd play, it was like it was coming straight from his heart onto the keys. I said, I wish I could do that. Why didn't God give me that gift? If you've ever seen the movie Amadeus, you know that Salieri was jealous of Mozart. Because God had given Mozart this ability, this skill, this talent, this gift. And Mozart, at least according to the movie, he showed no appreciation for it. He didn't treat it with respect. And Salieri screamed at God, oh, that you had just given me this gift. I would have honored it. Ever find yourself in that position? You see somebody else with a gift. They don't use it wisely. They don't use it well. They don't use it for God's glory. They take it for granted. The things we take for granted that other people would so much like to have in their life. We can feel sorry for ourselves. But the truth is, it's a matter of jealousy. So where does it come from? It comes from the enemy. You remember, go take yourself back to the beginning. We were reading about the beginning in the Eggermeyers this morning. When the enemy was created, he was created as the most beautiful creature that God had created. He was the most beautiful angel that God had created. And it wasn't enough. He wanted to be like God. He wanted to be worshipped like God. He wanted to be valued like God. He wanted it all. And he became envious. And then he became envious of man. And God created man and woman and put them in the garden. He was envious of the love that God showed man and woman. He was envious of the attention that they were receiving and of the love for the Father. And so he became a serpent and he whispered that God was withholding something. There's something God's not giving you. And we heard that whisper today. Yes? We hear that whisper today. Whenever we look at something that somebody else has, whether it's a characteristic, whether it's a skill, whether it's a talent, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a position, or whether it's a material object that somebody else has and we don't have, we get that little whisper in our hearing that says, God didn't give that to you. He's withholding that from you. The result of this is disorder and every vile practice, James writes. Disorder and every vile practice means instability, means confusion, means wicked, means base. So we get sideways. When there are things that we wish that we had that other people have and we're jealous of them, it's malignant and it grows inside of us and it changes us. You may remember the story several years back of a young lady named Lisa Nowak. She was an astronaut, a robotics specialist, and she was in Houston, Texas, and on the NASA team. And on her furlough, we're told that Lisa got in a car and she drove 900 miles without stopping except for gas. She drove to Orlando, Florida. And there she attempted to kidnap the girlfriend of her ex and to kill her. Jealousy. Jealousy. Her ex had moved on without her, and she could not handle it. Somebody had something that she wanted, something that she should have had. A couple years ago up in Spokane, we watched on the evening news as they reported that a man had showed up at Deaconess Hospital and he'd gone inside and he'd shot and killed his wife, and then he turned a gun on himself and killed himself. A jealous rage. Now that's not something necessary that we struggle with. Or is it? What is it Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount? Thou shalt not kill, but I say, if you have a hatred toward your brother, you've committed murder. And so to be jealous, it's actually the 10th commandment. Do not envy. Do not covet. Why is it? Because when we say that, when we feel that, when we're experiencing that, what we're really saying is that God is withholding. God loves someone more than he loves me, and I'm not getting what I should get from God. And God says, don't play that game. God has given us every good thing. He had given Adam and Eve the entire garden and said, you can have any of the fruit that you want, just don't touch this one thing. And it wasn't because it was better than the rest. It was to give them an opportunity to live in trust. We're given opportunities to live in trust, aren't we? And there are things that we're not supposed to do, whether as an employee, or whether as a team member, whether as a spouse. We're given these opportunities to live and earn trust. James spells out the malignancy that jealousy inspires. But then he contrasts it with God's goodness and his design. In verse 17 he continues, he says, but the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, open to reason, full of mercy and good fruits, without uncertainty or insincerity. And the harvest of righteousness is shown in peace by those who make peace. He says that it's pure, that it is morally pure. He says the wisdom from above is ready for peace. It's prepared for peace. It says that it's truly fair beyond ordinary justice. That wisdom is ready to obey. That wisdom is compassionate to the others in our life, showing loving kindness and appealing fruit, attractive fruit as produced by a life of the Holy Spirit within us. A life that is unambiguous and whole. This is the product of wisdom that comes from above. Wisdom is spoken of often in the Old Testament. And in fact, we see that Solomon writes the book of Proverbs, and in that, in chapter 3, in chapter 3, Solomon writes, happy is the man who finds wisdom and the man who gets understanding. For the gain from it is better than gain from silver, and its profit better than gold. She is more precious than jewels, and nothing you desire can compare with her. She is a tree of life to those who lay hold of her. Those who hold her fast call her happy. Wisdom. Wisdom, to have a life and a heart full of wisdom, to live through that wisdom that was given from above and not that which is earthly, that which is carnal, that which is demonic. Earthly wisdom makes use of the world's standards as a measure. That is what we possess, our position, our image, the way others see us, whether or not we have the hair that we wish that we had, or the stature that which we wish we had. And using that standard, we will always come up short. We'll never measure up. There's always going to be somebody who breaks the record, who comes out with something more powerful, something that's faster, something that's better, something that tastes better. There's always stays one step ahead of us. And chasing after that it's empty. I think of just this week I was reading about Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos is the CEO of Amazon. And they were talking about all the things that he has managed to accomplish, and he's really, in the business world, he's changing the world because of his, not just Amazon selling things, but now the delivery process and everything else. absolutely changing the world. You got Amazon Prime, you watch TV. The Amazon is just becoming a world unto its own. And not that long ago, we were talking about Bill Gates. Seriously, you can't keep up. If we measure ourselves after the world, we'll never, never, never arrive. And so God uses a very different plumb line in measuring us. And it's a plumb line that we're supposed to use to measure ourselves. Because we can reach that plumb line. Because God uses a plumb line that is about our heart for Him and our heart for others. It's a purity. It's a desire to lift others up and to love others. He uses the plumb line of our walk with Him. That we're spending time with Him and our hearts and our thoughts turn toward Him. That's what God wants from us. And our obedience to His voice, when through the Holy Spirit He's looking to direct our lives. Let me suggest that as you go through the week, and I trust that you spend your time in the morning, you say, God, I want you to direct my life today. And I pray that you would bring someone across my path, that you would help me to know that that person is someone I need to pay attention to, that I need to lift up, to encourage, to speak to invest in. And as we live that out, as we invest in them, then we're planting these seeds of righteousness and peace. And God is looking on you, and He's just got this grin. He's going, yes. See, that's how your Father sees you. Those of you who have children know that your different children can sometimes feel like, well, you don't love me as much as... I told the story of Tommy Smothers and Dickie Smothers, and Tommy says, that a mom loved you best, and you got a bicycle, and you got a dog, and all I got was a stupid chicken. Well, we didn't get chickens in our house, but I can remember when my kids got a little older, and my son was just sure that we loved our daughter more. And our daughter was just sure that we loved our son more because they got things way better. No, they didn't. We just gifted them differently because they're different people. Yes. And God does the same with you and I. He designed us. He made us. And He knows what fulfills us. And He gave us. I want you to let this sink on you. God gave you the very specific everything about you, characteristics, skills, talents, everything in your life. I don't know that my hair plays that big a part of it, but God gave you the gifts in your life in order for you to be fulfilled as you follow Him. Yes? He's given us everything we need in order to be completely at peace. And if we would operate in that wisdom instead of the wisdom of the world that says, well, I need to have more things, and I need to have more position, I need to have this, and I need to have that. If we would function in the peace of knowing that God has poured His blessings into our life. James says we could get past that trial. James says that we could become what God wants us to become through our consistency in sowing seeds of righteousness and peace. So how do we overcome jealousy? By getting busy using what God has given us to do what He has called us to. To take our focus off of where we wish that we were and instead focus on what God has called us to. And when we focus on doing what He has called us to, we begin to experience fulfillment and satisfaction and joy because we see God's work coming alive in our lives. And by the way, don't we always feel richer when we give? I found that to be true. Times when I feel like I have nothing and I want to buy something so I have something, it doesn't help me. I just feel like, oh, now I don't have $20 in my account. But when I give something away, that makes me feel fulfilled. So get busy planting seeds of God's hope and love in people's hearts. And recognize that He loves you with a depth that you cannot even imagine. You are His child. I love my daughter to the moon and back. I do. I could cry if I keep thinking about it because I love her so much. And I love my son. I love my son. Not either one of them do I love less than the other. Neither one of them has a reason to feel jealous. They don't. And none of us has a reason to feel jealous. God loves you, Gus. He loves you every bit as much as He loves Billy Graham, anybody. He loves us. We're His children. He designed us to have relationship, to walk with Him. So, what would it mean? What would it mean to your friends for you to celebrate their success without any hint of jealousy? When your friend gets a promotion that you were hoping for, when somebody gets a job that you had applied for and wished that you had gotten, when somebody gets a boyfriend that you were hoping to get, and you can celebrate their joy. You can be truly happy for them, regardless. I know that it would affect you, but how would it affect them to see your joy being genuine for them? How would it impact them? Wouldn't it be powerful? Wouldn't it be powerful that as believers that we would just delight in other people's well-being and not for the slightest bit be envious of what they have, but rather happy that God has blessed them in the way that He has. Because one day we're all going to be on the other side and we're going to be in heaven. And when we're in heaven, we're not going to be looking at anybody else's house or anybody else's mansion or anybody else's anything with any kind of envy. We're going to just be filled with joy of what God has given to us. He loves us. He loves us incredibly. Let's pray. Father, I admit that I still struggle at times with things that I see others have that I wish that I had. And it could be a skill, it could be a talent that they have, it could be a physical characteristic. It can be physical possessions. I confess that, Lord, I struggle with that. That's not how I want my life to be marked. I want my life to be marked by a celebration of what other people have, to be truly, truly happy for them, to take joy in what you have given them, knowing that you have also given me everything that I have. Father, thank you for this time that we have had today, and I pray that you would help us to go home with something from this message today that would work on us during the week, that we would chew on, that we could have a conversation with you this week. We thank you for your blessings, and we thank you for your love and your grace. In the name of your Son, Jesus, we pray. Amen.